Okay. In this life, we have become accustomed to doing the bare minimum. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to normalize uplifting the community and completing the sentiment of positivity. No more sorries. Let's say, I'm sorry. I will do better. Acknowledgement to the mistakes. No more thanks, but thank you. You are appreciated. Show great gratitude while pushing through positivity. Let's stop speeding through our apologies. Let's truly embrace our mistakes while taking the necessary steps to improve ourselves. Welcome to the third episode of the Confrontational Podcast. I am your host, Imam Muhammad, and today we are here with two guests. First, we're going to mention my dear friend, my dear brother, one of my first teachers, Imam, chaplain, and graduate of Mishkat University, currently holds an MBA in Islamic law and is also seeking his PhD in Islamic law, CEO and lead language instructor at the Fahm One-on-One Institute, Queensbridge's own Imam Khalil Carter. And we have the brother, our dear brother, very sincere, most beloved brother, Suleiman Still. So first, brother Imam Khalil, how's it going?
Everything's well. Alhamdulillah, it's great to be here in your presence, and especially my big brother, Suleiman.
Yeah, definitely. How long we know each other for now?
I think we go back to, maybe 95, 96.
Yeah, that's crazy. Although we're both from Queensbridge, where do we meet?
We met when you was locked up in Spofford in Brooklyn, right?
Ella McQueen.
Okay.
Ella McQueen. It was actually a juvenile detention center that was after transitioning from Spofford. But yeah, nonetheless, juvenile facility. So, would you like to tell that story of how we met?
At that time, I was a new Muslim myself. I took my Shahada in July.
What is the meaning of Shahada?
Where someone makes the testimony of faith that there's nothing worthy of worship except for Allah and that Muhammad is his messenger. And once he takes that, he has reverted back to Islam, because we believe that every human being is born as a Muslim, but depending on how his parents raise him, he takes on the faith and beliefs of his parents and his environment. He may continue to stay in that state of submission where he submits to only one creator, but in many cases, and probably most cases around the world, he would change. He would go from worshiping one God to worshiping other deities. So we say that the person, in order for him to come back to that state, he has to take a testimony of faith. So I did that back in July of 1993, and the brother Suleiman, he gets a lot of credit for that. Like I say, he's my big brother. So I think it was around 95, 96, myself, a brother by the name of Abdul Rahim, who is the brother of Eddie Mustafa Muhammad, the ex-lightweight the ex-light heavyweight champion, his brother, Abdul Rahim. I used to visit with him and what's the Imam? Abdul Baqi.
Yes.
Yeah, Abdul Baqi.
Abdul Baqi.
Yeah, so himself and
very
we went.
beloved brother.
Yes. So we were invited to come to that facility. I think it was in Bed-Stuy, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So
Be the Bed-Stuy, Brownsville. Somewhere.
Yeah, I think it's Bed-Stuy.
I was inside, so I didn't really.
Yeah. So
traveling in the neighborhood.
Yeah. I think it was in Bed-Stuy, and at that time, I was living in Ocean Hills, Brownsville. Some people call it the Stuy. Some people say it's Brownsville, but then there's people who call it Ocean Hill, Brownsville. And I was living in Brooklyn at that time, where I spent most of my Islam. And we started, going to the, that center and our goal was to try to invite some of the youth to Islam that were being held there. And after, I can't remember, I spoke or Abdurrahim or whoever spoke, you had approached me. And at that time, you had some braids in your hair.
I had my dreads a little bit.
Yeah, you had some braids.
Most people, it's crazy because I tell people I had dreads. A lot of people don't believe me. And my dreads are pretty long at that point. So,
okay.
throwing in ponytails,
Yeah, so you had some.
It was crazy.
Yeah. I don't remember but I just knew it was braids.
Yeah.
And you had approached me, and you was like, I'm from Queensbridge too. So I had to speak because in order for you to know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You spoke.
Yeah. So I had that basically was an indication that I spoke that day, and you said I'm from Queensbridge too. Now to let everybody know, because I don't want the people from Ravenswood to get upset. On my birth certificate it has a Ravenswood address. Yeah. So I was born in Ravenswood, but from the age of 6, I lived between Ravenswood and Queensbridge.
Okay.
Yeah, from the age of 6. So I lived between the two neighborhoods.
That's crazy you say that because I think I moved to Queensbridge around 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so if you moved there around 7, so I was like 14 years old.
Exactly.
You moved there during the crack era.
Definitely.
But yeah. Around the time, it had just started. But so you had approached me, and I said in my head, he ain't from no Queensbridge. I ain't never seen him before, cause
That's 7 years of difference.
Yeah. So
and then you was on 12th Street. I was from 41st and 10th.
But I used to go on every block.
Yeah.
So and then the block that you're from
was the money block.
I'm not gonna. I mean, if you want to call it the money block, but people who I hung out with first was on my block, and then was your block. So you had the Mark Morrises, you had Pop, you had BJ, you had my main man Mo Boatwright, you had Marvin Patterson. So you had all these different individuals I used to go on your block and hang out with. But I didn't really, like on your block, I just would spend time, a lot of times going to Mark Edwards' house. But it was nothing really to do on your block because y'all didn't have a basketball court. Yes.
Yeah, we didn't have. We played football.
Yeah. Or
football.
baseball. We would play baseball. We played football on your block. So I was like, this kid ain't from no Queensbridge. I ain't never seen him before. But you definitely are from Queensbridge.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Definitely. I mean, anyone who knows me knows QB. That's the thing about it. So I accepted Islam in 95.
Okay.
And you said 93.
Yes.
When did you accept Islam, Brother Suleiman?
I want to say 87.
Yeah, I was a baby.
87. I was a vendor on Fordham Road and selling tapes and hustling like I'm doing now. And this brother came up to me and he was talking about Islam, and I would listen from time to time, and went out to his house. It was in Yonkers. And I think I was amazed at first when I got there. The brother had 3 or 4 wives.
Okay.
The food was delicious.
That was a major incentive.
My baby mother at the time, name was Ivy. We would go, but she was always saying, we got to go to get the food. And one day I left her, and she didn't go, and took my shahada. And when I came home, she was like, where's the food? And I was like, I'm Muslim now. My name is Suleiman. And from then on,
you thought you went to get the food, but you went to change your name.
You never know when Allah's coming to get you. That's what I got to look at, brother.
Definitely.
You never know when he's coming to get you, man.
Definitely. See, the purpose of this episode today is to show how there's a deep-rooted Islamic presence in our neighborhoods, in our societies, which is kind of strange. It may seem strange because I don't think there's a black person or a person in what's technically considered to be the hood or urban community. I don't think there's anyone who don't know a Muslim, whether it's in their family or close proximity. The store owner, the store clerks, the gas stations. There's some encounter that we by some kind of way we encounter a person who's a Muslim. And when I was young, it was the same thing, because I remember my cousin, he had he had accepted he didn't accept Islam actually. Somebody was trying to indoctrinate him with 5%, teachings, and he went to study and read up more about Malcolm X. So what he did was he went to the library, climbed over the gate, stole the Malcolm X book, and they was telling me about how interesting the book was. So in my head it was like, okay, I hear what you're saying, but I'm in the street. So I'm like, yeah, all that sounds good, but I'm in the street. And before I went to the facility that you seen me, I got arrested. I was probably 13 then. I got arrested, and I was in another non-secure facility, also in Brooklyn. And a close friend of mine, Abdurrahim, what we call now Abdurrahim Tyrone, he calls me while I'm in there, and he says, you should turn on Channel 7, the Malcolm X movie is on. And so we watch it, and it's a 2-part movie, so it came on one day, the next day. And by the next day, he calls me back, he said, you should be a Muslim. In my head, I'm like, you're not even a Muslim. But he knew that Islam saved Malcolm X's life, and it could save my life, could change the course of my direction. So I didn't accept Islam at that point, but it was enough to open my eyes to something that was greater. So is it just me, or do you guys see a correlation between Islam, the presence of Muslims in the urban area?
Oh, of course, without a doubt. Without a doubt. The brother Suleiman, he played a major role in me accepting Islam. It's somewhat similar to what your friend has said, what your friend did when he actually stole the Malcolm X book.
My cousin, yeah.
Yeah, your cousin. Because I had went in the wrong direction for a few years. And what had happened was there were, certain, back then you had crews.
Yes, sir.
And there was an up and coming young crew in Queensbridge, and they kind of were intimidating, people that were around our age, and then they were trying to make a name with themselves. So they were going at another crew. I ain't gonna mention any names, but Suleiman knows what I'm talking about. Yeah, they was going at that crew. And one day we were at 111.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we was at 111, and we were playing. I forgot which day of the week it was, but you play
hockey.
Yeah, you play basketball.
Okay. Let's make it sure.
Yeah, you play basketball. In actuality, that's the first sport I tried out for.
Hockey?
Yeah, seriously, for St. Rita's. I wanted to play hockey, but they forced me to play basketball. Because they said I had a lot of skills.
Oh, you did have a lot of skills.
Yeah. So that
you
day,
did play college ball too, though.
Yeah, I played Division I college ball. I played at Bethune-Cookman College, starting point guard. So it was time they were playing. When you come in, you ask who got next. If no one has next, you say that you got next. So I came in, I was like, yo, I got next. There were some individuals in there, and they had just finished punking this kid, and that's one of those individuals. He had said to me, he had asked me who got next. I said, I got next. He said, no, you don't have next. I'm taking your next. And me and this individual just spoke the other day, and I was like, you were an alpha male. I was an alpha male. We both had egos, and at that time I had a lot of arrogance with myself, and I said to two other individuals, I said, the next time he says something to me, I'm punching him in his face. So he happened, the game was over, and he was like, yo, if you cross that line, it's gonna be a problem. So like I told them, if he says something, he's getting hit.
It's on.
Yeah, and then somebody else jumps in, and then now it's myself fighting against those two. And so after the incident was over, I went to my father's house because my father had just bought his apartment, his co-op, and no one knew where he lived at. And I went over there, and I was waiting for my cousin to come through so we can go back and retaliate for what happened. And as I'm in the house, I'm waiting, I'm walking back and forth, I'm looking in the mirror. I'm just getting more and more upset, and I'm
that was the ego kicking in.
Yeah, the ego. Right. The batteries in my back right now is like the Energizer bunny. That thing is just going up and up and up.
Yeah, not today.
So next thing you know, I'm walking we have a long hallway. I'm walking towards the door because I'm ready to go. I want to call my cousin, like, where you at? You taking too long. Then the door opens. Those two individuals walk in, and behind is my father, Suleiman, and Chick, right? And we all sat down. My father also called Minister Akbar from the Nation of Islam.
The Nation of Islam.
Yeah, because
Presence.
Yeah.
Even see, the thing about it is, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Even if like, you know, we like as Sunni Muslims, we have a difference in theological, in theology with regards to Muslim, Islam, and the Nation of Islam. But overall, in the West, to the non-Muslim, it's all Islam, right? So that's what I meant by the presence, the Muslim presence in our urban areas, right? People put their feet down. They was in the mud trying to uplift the community, whether it be from the Muslims, Ahmadiyas, Nation of Islam. Some kind of presence was there where people say, you know what, I'm not a Muslim. I don't really know the tenets of faith, but all of them look like Muslims.
But I'm gonna let him continue with his story. Before the time when that altercation happened, he went to his dad's, but they also had the Nation of Islam came to Queensbridge, and we huddled it up right then and there. I don't know if you remember that, but we talked, and we said these two individuals know each other. And his father is a knowledgeable man. I believe Allah has power, but his father is very knowledgeable. One of the first men that they have a hospital named after who's living. They normally name a hospital after you die.
Yes.
But
we talked. We're gonna have Uncle Hank up here.
And we was like, okay,
Inshallah.
let's just figure this out between the two brothers who had the altercation. We appreciate you brothers being here. Don't do that. Yeah. And with Chick, God bless the dead, Chick, we all went up to the house, and that's where he was at. I don't remember that part, but
okay. Now, I didn't know y'all was coming.
Yeah,
I didn't even know what happened because, like I said, I left from 111, made a phone call, called my cousin. I'm waiting at the house. We just gonna retaliate, So I'm sitting in the house. Yep. We all sitting down. My father ended up getting upset with me and one of the other individuals, and then the one who I had the altercation started with, my father sided with him, right? Because he said he was, he just joked. He just told me that the other day too. He said he was just joking. But me, I'm very defensive, So and then when you doing certain things, or you're in a certain environment, and I was the only child, you really got to always be on the defensive, Like somebody said, why do you think black fighters are the best counterpunchers? Because we got to always be on the defense, We always being struck at first, and then we always got to counter. So that's why if you'll notice, black fighters are always the best counterpunchers. So being on the fence. But after the situation was all over, we all sat down. I went to Suleiman. I was like, "What's your religion?" Because I'm just wondering how, and I'm talking about this is late. No, sorry, this is the early 90s. Okay, we only 7 years from the time when the crack epidemic started. Right, it was at its height, and I'm like, who are y'all? Like, why does everybody has so much respect and respect for all of y'all? So I'm like, what's your religion? He said, Islam. I said, and I know Suleiman for a long time. I said, you got something for me to read? And he said, yeah. I'll get you something. But I had to leave because if not, I went to jail for a long time. So I left. I went to college, and I came back during the winter break. And during the winter break, I visited a girlfriend at that time who actually ended up becoming my first Muslim wife. And because I was telling her at that time, I was interested in Islam. So Suleiman gave her a copy of the Quran, the translation of the meaning of the Quran. So I said to her, she told me, she said, Suleiman gave me this. I said, yeah. So I said, where's mine? She said, Suleiman said he only had one copy. I said, okay. I said, where's? So she put it in the closet. She went in the room, and then I went and stole it. I never stole nothing. I never stole anything a day in my life.
Yes, sir.
I went and took it. I went back to school, and I started reading. Now, already prior to that, even prior to the incident, I remember one day I was on 12th Street. I'm in the middle of the block. A lot of people outside because it was always it was always a lot of people outside, right?
Always.
Yeah, it was just always live, right? And nobody knew, and I'm praying, and I say, "Oh, my friend." That's why I chose the name Khalil, because I used to always call Allah my friend. So I said, "Oh, my friend, I know you're gonna punish me for what I'm doing. Just show me the right way, and I'll follow it." And then I had that incident, like that same week or either the next week. But when I took that copy of the Quran that Suleiman gave her, I read it. The first 4 chapters, I said, this is what I've been looking for.
Yeah, definitely.
I said, this is what I've been looking for. And I said, I'm going to become a Muslim. Now, that same year, which was 92, the movie, it must be a habit, right?
Yeah.
It's a cultural habit. That same year, the movie Malcolm X came out.
Okay.
And that's when I seen the difference, because I seen Suleiman and then the Nation of Islam. So Suleiman represented Islam, represented a type of Islam, and the Nation of Islam represented a type of Islam. So, which we know is only one Islam. Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
But to the eyes of the people,
yeah, for the people,
West,
people say there's different types of Islam, which doesn't exist. There's one Islam, and there's different types of Muslims.
Yeah.
And when I seen the movie Malcolm X, I said I want to be on what Malcolm was on before he died, and that's what Suleiman was practicing. And me and Karate Joe, we said we're gonna take our shahada, we're gonna become Muslims after we finish college, because we want to be dedicated. The college life, you're not gonna really be dedicated. You're having fun. But I ended up becoming a Muslim that summer. And then I got to get to your story because it shows to answer your question, the presence of Muslims in the community. So I actually had an encounter with you before we met when you was at that detention center.
Definitely.
But I didn't know that was you. So I was at Masjid al-Bir, which is on 36th Avenue, and around it's in Astoria.
36th and 30th.
And we were there. I was outside. I'm standing outside, and I see this Egyptian brother, and he's at the end of the block. Our blocks in Queens are very long. So he's at the end of the block, and he's walking this way. And I just seen 2 young African-American kids, and I seen it coming, and one just looked like he just clotheslined him, right? Yeah. And then the other one did something, and the brother he hit the ground. He started running towards the masjid. I went inside the masjid, and I said, brothers, one of the brothers got attacked. Now me, at that time, I still didn't understand. I can't say understand, but I still didn't gain the discipline that Islam teaches us. Because when you deal with situations, you got to have discipline.
Definitely.
You understand?
Yes.
It takes time, it takes maturity.
Anything you do in life, because a lot of times we can go into situations and we could deal with them recklessly. Mm-hmm. And the way I handled this situation was kind of reckless. So we went
But we was out of there by that time.
Yeah. So we went.
You're not waiting for the police.
Listen, this is like what?
Yeah.
This might be 94 or something like that.
So that's your what? Your 1 year, basically.
Yeah, 1 year in.
Yeah.
And I'm looking, and I got something in my pocket, and I'm looking, and I see this one young kid. I roll up on him. I'm like, yo, were you the one who just hit one of the Muslim brothers? No, it wasn't me. The guy who did it, he ran off, and so on and so forth. He said, my grandfather's an imam. The police.
Which is true. His grandfather was the imam.
Wow.
And, see, the thing about it was crazy because, we was on go all the time. So it was always to expect. If you was with us outside in the street, opportunity came up, we was going to take it. Whether it was a store, individual, whatever it was, we was going to come off that night.
Uh-huh.
And so me and K-Dot, Chaos, empty block, guy makes the turn, he's walking up. We don't know Egyptian, Arab, white, black, none of that mattered. So he was like, okay, he's available. Unfortunately, I'm not, it's definitely not praising that type of lifestyle. He was available. So we got him. You know how you basically get it. You throw him in the fiend, in the lock, he dig his pockets, right? So that's all it was. But everything happened so fast that by the time he fell, we looked up and we saw the crowd coming.
Yeah.
So we run.
Right.
Go, get to the safe house, basically. Get to my man's crib. We over there waiting for everybody to come. They didn't know we was going over there to do it. They just knew that, okay, so-and-so was around us. They went to do it, and then they did. They knew where to meet us. They weren't going to tell. They knew where to meet us, but it wasn't planned. And that's why when you accounted them, he was like, my grandfather's an imam. His name is Kareem. He's like, my grandfather's an imam. So what the crazy thing is, years later, Khalil was telling this story, and I'm like, yo, Khalil, that was me.
Wow.
Couldn't even believe, yeah.
It's way after I accepted Islam, way after he visited the facility. I'm like, yo, that was me. I'm tears about to fall out my eyes. I'm like, yeah, that was me.
You might have been in Saudi by that time, or we might have been in Pennsylvania. I came back from studying. It was years later.
Way over 10, 15 years of being Muslim that he's telling the story. I'm like, oh man, because I'm like, it can't be, it couldn't be two people out there who had a grandfather that was was Muslim on the same block around the same time. And what was crazy, this is why I have so much love and respect for Masjid al-Bir. I have so much love and respect for Masjid al-Bir is because that was the closest masjid to us at that time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when I accepted Islam and I got out of the juvenile facility and I decided to change my life, it was like, okay, well, that's the mosque I'm going to go to. But I'm hesitant because I did so much dirt in that area. I'm like, I'm going to go in there, you're going to have a whole fight in there. And I'm not going to cower. That's not the issue. The issue is that I changed my life. I wanted to be embraced. So the brother, Hassan Mabruk, I get there, and I'm like, discreet. I go there, pray. I did. Pray and leave. Pray, right? So Hassan says, Assalamu alaikum. I'm like, oh, man. He says, I know who you are. Just like that. I know who you are.
Well, Hassan was the brother y'all...
No, it wasn't the brother we got attacked.
Okay.
But he was the brother. He was always there at the match. So he probably saw us and he saw everything go down. He's like, I know who you are. Welcome. On my heart, I was like, oh man.
But I didn't recognize him.
Yeah.
Now, I'm the one who actually seen the incident, but it was at the other end of the block.
Yeah,
it was just so far down the block, and so we out there, and then some other. At first, it was myself and maybe what's his name, Muhammad Musa.
Oh, Muhammad Musa, yeah.
Yeah, he came out there.
That's my man
to
too.
do martial arts and like kickboxing, and maybe another brother. We went. And we just looking all over. I'm the one, whoever I seen, I'm the one who's like stepping to the person. I'm like, yo, I'm trying to put pressure on them. And the police comes. So now there's a whole bunch of people. It's like a African Latino officer. He pulls me to the side. He said, listen, I know how your Muslims get down. We leaving.
Wow.
And the kid, who's Kareem, I guess he felt safe. Now the police is there. Police got in the car and drove off. So now he's scared.
Yeah.
We didn't do anything. But yeah, that was our first encounter. But this is like, the presence in...
What Kareem is this, though?
He lived somewhere, I think either Ravenswood or Corona, somewhere out there.
All right.
But we used to, he used to come down to we used to chill at Ella. He was part of the team. You know what I mean? So but I remember like hanging out with him in Corona, and he was like, "That's my grandfather's mosque." Clara Muhammad. He's like, "That's my grandfather's mosque." So that's why I always remembered.
Yeah,
I always remembered that.
Yeah,
I always remember that he was Muslim. Which was amazing because everyone's level of faith is at different levels at different times. I'm not even sure how he's practicing now, but I do remember that, and which was also crazy because after I accepted Islam and I go to the Masjid al-Bir, I'm like, yo, son, you can't be Muslim. You can't be Muslim because we just did this. Yo, you Muslim too? All of these people we were chilling with at 2 and hanging out with LIC, they were in the mosque.
Oh, wow.
But a lot of them used to go to the masjid with the private house before Bangladesh mosque.
Yeah.
On
up 36 further up. Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
A lot of them brothers from Long Island City High School used to go there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was amazing. What's the crazy thing is, this was crazy, right? How, like, I was in Saudi Arabia 10 years. I studied there, and we along that path, even before going overseas to study, you study and you try to be as studious as possible, as much as possible, you yourself as well. Khalil studied in Egypt and then continued his studies all the way to Mishkat University, right? But like the Prophet Muhammad said, that the person who calls to good gets the reward of the person who does it as well, without taking away anything from the person who does the reward. So if I tell you a hadith or narration, prophetic narration, or if I explain to you something that you didn't know, if I educate you, you get the reward, I get the reward. In this scenario right here, you get all of the reward.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So whatever we accomplish, we
we
got to tell you congratulations. Big brother.
All of the people who accepted Islam by way of me, or got some kind of clarity, through Khalil, on a day of judgment, all of these good deeds are just going to be piling up on your scale.
Inshallah.
I believe that
if that's not a gift, I don't know what is. Yeah, and you as well.
Yeah, I believe that we, even when we listen to each other, that we wasn't arrested, we was rescued. There's some people that have to be arrested because they keep completing the same thing they're doing.
Yes.
But we were rescued. We wasn't arrested.
Definitely.
So.
Definitely. And it's amazing because when I was in there and I got, so mind you, when another story probably going to come out in some of the episodes to come, is that when I actually got arrested for what initially started as a assault, just gang violence, my team against this team, which started as a, just assault, turned to an easy assault and armed robbery, which I didn't have a gun or anything, but it was a whole setup, and it came with some details that would come later on in a different episode. But I was in the same scenario. I'm in there, and mind you, I'm in there with killers because of the gravity of my charge, even though I didn't have a gun, or just the gravity of the charge, right? So I got one brother, Nate, who's in a double homicide. Another brother in there, he's got a triple homicide. One kid in there for a rape. The Chinese kid, he raped the girl. He dropped the television on her head. These guys are in there for serious charges. I'm in there for at the end of the day, it turned out to be just a fight, right? And someone else took the kid's chain. I didn't even take the chain.
You probably were a predicate felon, though.
Well, not as a juvenile. I don't really.
Okay.
It was just because they said I had a gun. I was set up. They said I had the gun. The helicopters was going to come. It was a whole big thing.
Stop saying you were set up.
No,
rescue.
No, that too. But no,
rescued.
I'm saying like someone actually.
Yeah, okay.
It was a whole setup.
All right,
too. But so I'm in there and I'm in the facility. I'm like stressed out. I'm like, yo, man, it got to be better than this. So I went through the whole motions. I prayed to Buddha. I prayed to Jesus. I prayed to the God of Malcolm X, and we're just looking for a way out, right? And at the same time, which was crazy, because I wish I was able to have one or two of the brothers here. Abdul Khalik used to come to Spofford,
Okay.
The brother Abdul Khalik used to come to Spofford, and he would, have like the Islamic studies, right? So I would go there and I listen, but I didn't go there to listen. I went there because my man, I heard he accepted Islam, and he was in it for homicide. And the only way I can talk to him was go there.
Yeah.
And it just shows you how, like, we're not gonna make this into a lecture, but it just shows you how if good is intended for you, it's gonna reach you. We always believe that good is intended for you, it's going to reach you, and you can't escape it. And if bad is intended for you, it's going to reach you as well. What throws me off sometimes is how Western society, more so in the U.S., right? They look at as Black Muslims to be kind of like radical or extreme. You ever experienced this?
Yes.
How?
Well, it's like you, on my job at one time, certain meetings that you go to, they was like, they knew I was Muslim, I wouldn't be invited to the meetings. And one time a lady said I smell like incense. And it gets inside your soul. But you're the nice guy when they want you to be the nice guy. But when you're dealing with people in meetings, and these are meetings where I had to sit down to do shows, events, you felt it and whatnot. But and then I was always asked, was I when you're talking to somebody, were you a jail Muslim? Did you convert in prison? I hated that to this day. Yeah. Well, you must have converted in prison, not Scarsdale, upstate New York in school, not where I met the Imam at. You're a jail Muslim. So that's one of the things that to this day they always think that you came from prison, you converted to Islam, and I don't know if it's because the biography of Malcolm X, but I don't know why, but that bothers me to this day. That I watch you two young brothers go overseas, go to school. I try to send some money when I can because you guys had it where you came from, and you wanted it. Y'all were thirsty for Islam. It was like, definitely. I want this, and and then all the other vices that you had with women, sneakers. I don't know y'all to use drugs, but all the other vices that y'all had, when I seen y'all with Islam, this is something that y'all wanted. So.
Definitely.
Not to get off the topic, but I hate when people ask me today, did you convert in prison? Not that there's something wrong with that. Well, why can't the average Black man just convert or learn Islam on his own? So,
well, I mean, I wouldn't blame them. Because I think a large percentage of African American men accepted Islam in prisons. So. This is where the stereotype comes from. I think agree. I think it's a large percentage of us after what you would say that the Great Conversion in 1975, and even many of them when they joined the Nation of Islam, they probably came through, became Muslims in the penal system. So I think this is where the stereotype comes from. Because even me myself, I've never been incarcerated, so people think that they're surprised. Oh wow, you never been incarcerated and you're Muslim? Like no, I never.
Have you ever been questioned? Where you took your shot at, or where you became Muslim? Have that been a question for you? Prison?
Have I? People. I mean, people have. Someone has definitely asked me. Did I accept Islam in prison or not? And I would say, no, I never accepted it in prison. Yeah, so that's where the stereotype actually comes from.
Yeah, I agree. What's crazy is coming from Queensbridge. Queensbridge has such a massive reputation. People all over the world know Nas. People all over the world know Coogee Rap, know Mobb Deep. Just so many people, I don't want to miss anybody, but so many people, so many rappers, so many celebrities came from Queensbridge projects itself. But we know the dark side of Queensbridge.
Yes.
We know the dark side. So what was always crazy to me was that I went from accepting Islam from Queensbridge to go to Mecca and lived on the mountain, on the side of the mountain where the revelation came down. So it was like I went from the worst place in the world to the best place in the world. And I lived there for years. And I would just wake up and I was like, man, like that's the cave right there where the prophet received first revelation. You know what I mean? Every day I wake up like, man, it's just something you never get over, because let alone people, most people are not chosen to make that pilgrimage or to visit Mecca or to even, you know, make Hajj or anything like that. But I went to Hajj, alhamdulillah, several times, like maybe 15 times I made Hajj. And aside of that, I was able to be on the same mountain where the prophet received first revelation. It was always mind-boggling to me. Okay, so let's go into the movie review of the week. I asked you brothers to take a look at the movie Judas is the Black Messiah. Judas and the Black Messiah, sorry. And the cast of, Daniel Kaluuya, Lakeith Stanfield, Martin Sheen, and with the direction of Shaka King and written by Bill Burson. What was your thoughts on the movie?
You want to start, Suleiman?
Yeah, 58 years thinking about the revolution, the march in D.C. when King spoke about police brutality. Brother Malcolm X. It's still going on today.
Yeah.
Brother King used to say, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Brother Malcolm used to say, it's against our civil rights and our human rights. And then you have Fred Hampton and the Black Panthers would speak about it. Until this day, we're still trying to figure out the reparation and the amnesty in the only form of appeasement. As people, that's all we want is, why are we fighting the police in this time? To this day, 58, I'm 57. And we talk about this movie, this lifestyle, 58 years they were talking about this. My biggest thing is that Fred Hampton went after the younger kids because their minds are like sponges. And today when we're trying to teach, we look like we have to go to the churches and the mosques and we're trying to attack the adults when sometimes their minds become stubborn. They're already at this path where I know it all and I got it all and I don't want to hear that. I'm only here on Sundays or I'm only here on Fridays. But the biggest thing I seen in that movie yesterday is how they fed the kids. And when you feed a kid and you nourish a kid, you can teach a kid or you can teach a soul. So I thought that movie was really good. Yeah,
Definitely.
A lot of people are going to be surprised. After watching the movie, I see the Black Panthers and their movement. I see it much different. I was young at that time. I mean, they were still up and running in the early 70s. So I was too young to actually understand what they were doing. So it was a lot of hearsay or either what I read or what I've, watched on TV or, through media.
Way of transmission, nothing you directly saw.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, the Black Panther movement wasn't strong in New York. I don't think it was strong. I could be wrong. So it was kind of, I think, more out in the
Midwest.
West.
More on the West.
Yeah, West Coast and the Midwest.
Oklahoma.
Yeah. So I think it was strong out in those areas. Wasn't that really strong in New York? I think Islam, and it still is, in terms of any group that was fighting for social justice for Black people, were the Muslims, and that was on the East Coast. But after watching the movie, and like Muhammad had mentioned, I've been, fortunate to obtain my master's degree in Islamic law. And when I look at Islamic law, I look at the prophetic history of the Prophet Muhammad, and even my knowledge from when Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and even what I know of the prophets and messengers that are mentioned in the Old Testament, as well as in the New Testament. Whenever they were in a place of oppression, they would make an exodus. That was their first option. If they had the ability to make an exodus, that's what they would do. Okay, I don't remember reading, whether it be in the Quran, the narration of the Prophet Muhammad, and even what I knew of the previous prophet, even what the Quran tells us about the previous prophets, which agrees with what is in the Old Testament as well as the New Testament. I never seen them to rebel. Okay, God commanded them to what? Migrate, go somewhere else where you're not going to be oppressed. Okay, so I got to stick with which I know is the truth, and I know what God says is the truth, and the way now in terms of what they did in terms of certain programs like Suleiman mentioned that were helping the community in terms of feeding and clothing and all that. That's great. But in terms of the social injustices, the way they approached it, by first of all becoming a political party. And they became a political party that was associated with Marxism, which is connected to communism, and that's an enemy. They're enemies to the United States of America. So you already put a target on your back because now you're affiliating yourself with a party that is connected to a country that poses the greatest threat to America, to the existence to America's existence. And that was one mistake. In terms of, and I believe that they were very reckless too. They were very reckless.
This is based off the movie or based off of
the movie?
Just the party in
the party as well as the movie. Like like the part when Fred Hampton, when he said that if you kill a pig, you get satisfaction. Yeah. If you kill more pigs, you get more satisfaction. You kill all the pigs, you get complete satisfaction. Now, come on. Yeah, you understand what I'm saying? And he knew that there was law enforcement that was investigating him that was in the crowd. Just reckless. Even though it's not even just reckless, it's wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because not all cops are corrupt. Not all cops are racist. Not all cops are, just bad. There's good cops. There's bad cops. And even the cops that may be bad, that's not the person that may have did the crime against you. You know what I'm saying? So, it's just, I just seen that their approach when it came to police brutality or corruption, it was extreme. Okay, and some people may call them terrorists. I don't call them terrorists because a terrorist to me is an individual who he wants to install fear not against a nation but its people as well. Whereas rebels, they're only fighting against the government. And I think they were one of those parties or one of those groups that were rebels.
Yeah.
They were at war with the government.
But to get revolution, to have all them different people in the same room. You had gangs. You had the white supremacists in the same room. Fred Hampton organized the Black Panthers. It was another group in that room. The only enemy was the police brutality. The way they attacked it, you're 100% right. Yeah. But what you call the people who are in charge of the guns? NRA? What is it?
Yeah.
Oh, the NRA and ATF?
The NRA.
Okay.
The only time their gun sales went down is when Huey Newton and the Black Panthers went inside the Supreme Court. Today, you can shoot 50 kids in front of this building and the gun rates go up. You can shoot 75 kids in any other borough today, the gun rate's going to go up. The only time the gun rates went down is when Huey Newton and them went inside the Supreme Court with them AR-47s and them rifles, and They sent a message. The way they did it was wrong because you have so many people that think that they can do the same thing. The piggybacks and cats that you can put a battery in their back, or the young youths. But when they went into that, all the sales went down. The NRA was ready to sit down and talk. How can we get these guns out these people's hands? So what I'm saying with that movie and the life of Fred Hampton, for him to organize that revolutionary with all them different, because when you dealing with life, your neighbors or something, there's always somebody that don't like you.
Of course.
But with this party here, they seen me. We all in the same room, and we really don't like each other during the day or during the week, but we all in the same room. Who is the enemy? God, the devil, or either the police? If you're against God, then you think God's the enemy. If you're against the devil, you think the devil's the enemy. But if you're against them radical police at that time, who were just, even in the slums and ghettos of the Caucasian area, the police were beating them up. So when I seen him attack that or go at it that way, I was like, the way he did it, the message was wrong. If you kill the police, you get satisfied, and then he had them preach after him. But
yeah, I was conflicted because as a teacher, I don't focus a lot on the actual method. Sometimes I judge the message. Mm-hmm. So to me, the message has to be clear. I wasn't clear on what the message was.
Of the movie?
Not only the movie, just of the movement as well. Okay, if the message is, because the only thing I got from the message is that, like you mentioned, the police are our enemy. So what's the end goal? So that means the message is not complete. If the message is not complete, that means that there's more misguidance and confusion than actual guidance. If we stuck to the movie, I would say that it's possibly because he was so young. At 21, you don't have everything figured out. A lot of emotions, a lot of passion, a lot of desire, but answers and direction that comes from the elders, that comes from the scholars. Mm-hmm. And I think this is what even we lack sometimes in our communities, is that the youth feel the ambition, but they don't have the guidance. So they make moves to execute, but you can't execute if you don't got guidance. He needs guidance.
Yeah, even there's a hadith, like when the Prophet spoke about that group that has the characteristic that Ali believed that what a Khawarij.
Okay.
So the way the Prophet described them, what is Ahdath al-Asnan, wa Sufaha, what is it, Ahdath al-Asnan, wa Sufaha. How's the hadith go? It's that they're young. وَسُفَهَاء أَحْلَامٍ. Yeah, أَحْدَاثُ أَسْنَانٍ وَسُفَهَاء أَحْلَامٍ. That they're young and they don't have much knowledge, right? Mm-hmm. So if you notice that whenever the people who's going to cause problems, usually going to be young people. And why? Because they're young, and on top of that, they don't have much knowledge. But the movie itself, it seemed like it tried to focus more on the informant.
Yes.
It tried to, focus more on him.
And I thought they dropped the ball there. I think being such a great figure and have done so much for the community, I thought that they should have focused a little bit more on Fred Hampton. How his upbringing, what made him become somewhat radical. Like, why did he take that path? They didn't go into it was just general police brutality, wanting change. But I think they should have focused more on that. To me,
because maybe that's why they call it television. If we do our due diligence now and look at what the message was, they put the informer. When you look at it, you're looking at why the informer do that, and you're going, "Oh, he's wrong." But if you look at Black Lives Matter right now, how many people came out for these marches for Brother Floyd and his family? You'll look at what Fred Hammond was saying. You can't kill the people.
Yes.
You can't kill the revolution. Mm-hmm. You can't kill the dream. Now, you don't want to look at them Black Lives Matter and say they were all Black Panthers, but that party that was formed, they had Indians, Caucasians, everybody marching for this Black Lives Matter during this time. So you got to seek a little further into the movie, because that can blindside you when you see, because And then what it made me think was, okay, this Judas here, Malcolm had a Judas. We know in our books there's a Judas. King definitely had a Judas. Some of his own friends spoke out about how he had another wife. His own friends, his own brothers that he's marching with.
Nat Turner, all the insurrections.
All the insurrections had their Judas. So when you look further and you just got to push that Judas to the side and look what the message was. He was saying you can't, if you die for the people, you can't kill the dream. You can't kill the revolution. You can kill the person, but you can't kill the dream. And we lost a lot of our leaders, but the revolution still goes on because they're fighting, like I said, for 58 years. They're fighting for reparation, amnesty, only form of appeasement, and then they're also fighting to get reform for the police. Why am I being killed down? Years ago, we were considered cargo. We were considered animals. We're not human beings. And today, we're judged by the seal laws like cargo. That's why they shoot us down. We're not just like people.
Let me ask you, on a scale from 1 to 5, what did you grade the movie?
I thought it was going to be actually better. I give it a 6.
1 to 5?
Yeah, I mean, sorry. I thought you said 1 to 10. Sorry. From 1 to 5, I give it a 3.
I gave it a 3 too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm about a 4.
A 4? A 4 is good.
4, sorry.
You said a 4?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I said sorry because I
one of the reasons why I thought
used to doing 1 to 10.
One of the reasons why I think I gave it a 3 was because besides Daniel Kaluuya, which he did excellent. I think he did an excellent job. Lakeith Stanfield did an excellent job. I thought with such an impactful movie, they should have had, and no kind of slight to the other actors in the movie, they should have had a greater caliber of actors play the other parts.
Well,
and I think what we spoke about might have been due to the budget, but I think a movie at this caliber should have had, a better cast of actors. Some of the other actors, they were good, but they weren't great. Like when I think about Malcolm X's movie with Denzel Washington, I think greatness. Mm-hmm. I don't think a movie like that. Even when we're gonna do this, sometime in the future. When I looked at Miami, One Night in Miami, and I compared the actor there to Malcolm X and Denzel Washington, you can't compare. Denzel Washington did so great of a job. It's like he set a standard that it's kind of difficult to meet. In a movie like this, I would have just hoped that they would have had a better caliber of cast.
The reason why you probably would say Denzel did such a great job is because Denzel Washington is an African American playing the role of an African American.
I think Daniel did good.
And I think he did a horrible job. I couldn't even understand him sometimes. Some of the words that he said didn't even come out clear. I couldn't even understand what he was saying. He was trying to use an accent that someone from Chicago would use, and he already has an African accent, and that's why a lot of words didn't come out clear.
I thought he did great because he knew nothing about Fred Hampton. If I would have gave it to Denzel would have said, I know about the political movement. I know about, and to go back to what you said earlier, they were a strong base of Black Panthers in New York, because I believe that they also got, back then during the prison times, you didn't have, you would talk behind the phone. Mm-hmm. Your food meals was only one meal. They had something to do with that too. Getting touch visits, I don't know how to pronounce it.
Contact visits.
Visits. They had the meals changed.
Okay, so
it was the Muslims, the Black Panthers in prison, and it might have been in Alcatraz, it might have been in Sing Sing, New York, Arsenic. So they had a lot to do back then. But I said, what this actor, he had no affiliation. He didn't know who Fred was. So when you throw him in there and he did a job like that, if I would have threw Denzel in there or Lawrence Fishburne and all that, I already knew the movement. So sometimes when you get caught in acting, you get caught in character. Your times come up, the way you live. When he went in there, he knew nothing. So studying that part, I thought he did okay.
Here, so I'm just going to play a little clip, and then I want you to compare what you heard in the movie to Fred Hampton himself.
It this audience. Now, every sister in this audience ought to get yourselves together and come on down and help us with that Breakfast for Children program. Y'all ought to come down and help feed them children in the morning. We have Breakfast for Children because we teach the people through practice, through observation and participation, that people can't be fed free. That's the people thing. Socialism is the people. You're afraid of yourself. If you're afraid of socialism, you're afraid of yourself.
We're gonna stop right there. Copyright infringement. But I think he tapped into something that was.
I was raised by a Geechee grandmother. Okay. Yeah, your people are Geechee, right?
Yeah, South Carolina.
Yeah. So and a lot of that was Chicago. Most of their, Fred Hampton, I don't even think he was born in Chicago. I think he's originally from maybe Alabama because he said something about Emmett Till. He mentioned about his, I think it's something.
His mother used to watch Emmett Till, but not every day, from time to time.
I think Emmett Till, that incident happened in the South, right?
In Mississippi.
In Mississippi, so exactly. So people out of Chicago, Detroit, they migrated from out of Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, the western part of Georgia. So they have an accent, and a lot of us are already familiar with that accent. And he didn't do it. He was off. I'm just telling you. I grew up with a Geechee grandmother.
I thought he was. I thought he was pretty accurate.
Nah, it was too fake. It was too fake.
I think it was forced a little bit.
Yeah. And then he has an African accent. Like me, I'm trying to learn a little Wolof. I try to learn some Fulani, and because of my American accent, it's off. You know, my wife will laugh at me and everything, you know, because I just sound American. And I try my best, but
I think towards the pandemic they did a good job because a lot of people didn't want to touch this movie when they first did it. The soundtrack was amazing. They had her on there doing her thing, Sister of Power, Peace. But I just think because of the pandemic, my opinion wise is that they, didn't. With the budget wise, it could seem like everything was right there. That block, that corner, like they didn't talk about other political prisoners that was overseas and what went down, and they didn't get into that. It was just based on that. So.
But real quick, I think the message of the movie, I think it was more focused on the informant. Bill O'Neill. Yeah, and because
Bill.
Because I think even in Islam, Ya ayyuhan nabiyyu jahidil kuffar wal munafiqin. Allah is like fight against the hypocrites, and it's with what speech. So they were sending a message out to all the Judases that's still existing now. You're hurting the cause. And this is and you have to hurt the cause, and you're still hurting the cause.
So you think
I don't agree with that because you two brothers right now and studied all over the world. And as soon as you make one mistake saying something, you're accounted for it. You have them Judases that going to say, Brother Khalil said this, Brother Muhammad did this. And they're also the carriers. They're how that whisper when you carrying something, but you don't carry it in a positive way to see the mistake to come back to correct y'all. But I'm carrying the mistake to hurt you. To this day, y'all gonna have to deal with that because you're there's people waiting for us to make that mistake.
You're saying the same thing, man. Okay. But I think the people in the movie were addressing them. You're the ones hurting us as a people. You're hurting our progress because you're working with those who are trying to keep us down, and you're doing it for, selfish reasons.
Right.
You're an informant because you got in trouble. You know what I'm saying? And to get yourself out of that problem, now you're going to join a movement or, or whatever to take down
something positive.
That take down something positive. You know what I'm saying? Or someone positive. You know what I'm saying? So this is, I think they were being addressed. That's why I think the focus was on him because these are the people hurting us. Even during slavery, so many insurrections, so many rebellions was stopped because it was always some, traitor.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we move on, one other thing that threw me a loop was it seemed like part of the message was radical behavior breeds radical behavior. The FBI had radical tactics. Police had radical tactics. So that bred the a radical movements from some of the Caucasians or whites at that time, because the white supremacists was also against some of the police brutality. The Black Panther Party as well. So I'm a little because I'm a teacher at the end of the day. So when I look at it as if the message is that radical behavior breeds radical behavior, then that tells the person sitting in his home that the only way to bring resolution is to get my gun. Instead of getting involved in politics, instead of reaching out to the congressman, instead of making some political suggestions that are nonviolent. So I'm kind of that's why I gave the movie a 3. I think that the message could have been a little more broad, a little more direct, to have something positive come out of it instead of just leaving us in despair.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So the physical, the gun part, disturbed you when they were talking about getting the gun. And
no, not that people may do it, not saying that
right
to do it. So it's like, because it's unclear, you leave a person to kind of like figure it out by himself.
Do you know our tongue is just as dangerous as a weapon?
Yes. Yep.
Do you know that when you brothers travel, wherever you go, that you're being watched?
Of course.
The message that y'all preach. If somebody ever come back and tell me anything about y'all, I'm going to say, did you go tell him first? That's who I am. I'm old school, and y'all know that.
Definitely.
Yes.
I'm not going to 50 other people and say, Muhammad said this, Khalil said this, Muhammad said this, Khalil said this, Muhammad. I'm going back. I'm going to look at it, call you up. In any classes you do online, I got my hand raised more. You got to say, Brother Suleiman, put your hand down. Because I'm going to raise my hand. I'm going to ask questions.
Ask questions, definitely.
Because our tongues can be just as dangerous as that weapon. And at that time, when you were dealing with them brothers in the 60s and 70s, their education wasn't as great as it is today. You didn't have the opportunities in social media.
But if you look at, that's why I said they were very reckless, because look at the results. People got killed.
Yeah.
Their whole movement got destroyed. People got killed. People went to jail for the rest of their life.
People
you know what I'm saying? So at the end of children end up becoming orphans. So what did you accomplish at the end of the day? That's why, even in Islam, some people came to Abdullah ibn Umar, and they had asked him, "Aren't you going to, go out and fight against, I think it was against Muawiyah?" And he replied to them and mentioned that during the time of the Prophet Muhammad, we used to only fight to to stop fitna or oppression, right? But you guys, when you fight, the result is that you bring oppression or you bring problems, because by this whole ideology of a revolution, what is it going to lead to? It's going to lead to a civil war. Old women, children, women, whoever, people are going to get killed. You're talking about the infrastructure is going to be destroyed. It just leads to destruction. It's not the solution to the problem. So that radical idea of fighting back against the police, that was just totally the wrong way about trying to make change for the black problem.
Definitely. So if you're following the podcast by way of Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And for a lot of people who don't know how the algorithms work in the world of tech or the world of social media, is that by you commenting on a post, by you liking the post, by you subscribing or hitting the alert button, this helps other people also see the content. And when you don't do that, you just look at it yourself. Even if you don't like it, hit the dislike button, no problem. Leave a comment, tell us what you don't like, dislike, what you don't like about it. it helps other people see the content as well. So if you can't support by way of funds, by way of attendance, then please help support by way of subscription. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the next question before we end the podcast today. And we always have a segment where we discuss relationship issues. We're gonna put that aside today to ask a question on how we feel about the internet sensation Kevin Samuels. I have my feelings, have my opinions, but I want to hear from you, two brothers. You're aware of who Kevin Samuels is?
Yes, I'm very aware.
So now, like, well, people don't understand why we even have the relationship segment is because, like, Khalil knows as myself, we deal with this in our community, where we actually, help and mend a lot of, situations, a lot of homes where people who wives complain about their husbands and husbands complain about their wives and, want to get a divorce or want to get married and things like this. So we're in the mix already. So today we're going to talk about this. What do you think?
Kevin Samuels, for one, he's a realist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that good or bad?
It depends on how he expresses it. There's been a couple of times when I think he was trying to educate some young black women or comment, and the way he did it was kind of harsh. But I think in most of the cases that I've seen, he hasn't been harsh at all.
So let me ask you: was that his harshness a response to aggressive caller, or was it his attack?
Still don't justify it. You got to be professional about it, and then you still, even if the person was aggressive, you don't respond to their aggression with aggression, or disrespect. I mean, he basically, the way he just disrespected the young lady, I don't remember what he said. I just don't think, whether she was aggressive or not, he shouldn't have been disrespectful to her. Because that, number one, at the end of the day, is somebody's daughter. Somebody's daughter could be somebody's mother. And he shouldn't have disrespected her like that. Because I don't think, no matter how aggressive his daughter or his mother would be with somebody else, I don't think he would like for somebody to disrespect them. So that's number one. But most of the time, he's very respectful. It's just been a couple of situations. Second thing, I don't think he's unique or original. I think he's getting a lot of what he says from Shahrazad Ali. Who wrote The Black Man's Guide to Understanding a Black Woman. I think he got a lot of that from her.
But you do know, because I think a lot of people from our community get caught up in how he responds to some of the callers. But his message is not to black women directly or black men directly. It's to women.
I don't know. I think he's addressing a problem that plagues black culture.
More or only?
I think only. I think he's really addressing a problem that we mainly have. You know what? No. I think it could be both, but I think he's addressing us more. But I think his main message from what I've gathered is that he's dealing with the double standard.
Okay.
He's dealing with the double standard where if a black man says, "Listen, this is the type of woman that I want to be in a relationship with," let's say she has, a bachelor's degree, she's a certain height, she's a certain weight, she's a certain complexion, that's wrong. But when a black woman does it, it's no problem. So I think he's addressing the double standard. So if a black woman has a choice, or any woman, where she says that this is the type of man that I prefer to be with, a man should also have that right. And we live in a society now, especially after the women's lib movement back in the early 70s, men are being stripped of their rights, you know, and women. It's become now where women can do certain things, but if a man does it, it's wrong. You know what I'm saying? It's like if a woman behaves like a man, somebody would say she's a strong woman. But if we act like a woman, then they call it the F word. You know what I'm saying? Or sissy. You understand what I'm saying? Or you're not a man.
There's definitely a double standard.
And I think he's dealing with, that's what he's addressing. He's addressing the double standard that's out there.
One of the things I noticed that people are not taking consideration, I think that people need to take in consideration, he's not a counselor. He's not a relationship guru. He is an image consultant. So as an image consultant, his job is to drop and drop the jewels and the hard truth. You may not want to hear it, but that's his job. If you want to get someone who's a high earning man, then the high earning men usually think like this, right? You're not entitled to a high earning man just because you are a female, just because you're pretty, just because you don't have children. No. And I think that standard, even in our community, is necessary, because what happens is you have people who are in the community who would like to be married, making no self-adjustments, but want the cream of the crop. So when a brother says, no, I'm sorry, sister, I'm not interested. Oh, why? You must be gay. You must not like women. No, sister, because unfortunately, I don't see you to be healthy. I don't see you to be someone I can build with long term. And this is not, it's not me. I'm not thinking for myself. I'm saying in general, just how men think. So whether a man's opinion or perspective is correct or incorrect, it doesn't matter. What matters is that's his perspective. So you're going to meet him at his level, or you're going to ask him to adjust.
Well, Kevin Samuels, he's around my age. Okay, yeah. I think he's 2 years older than myself.
49, I think 49.
Yeah, I think 49, 50 years old. I think he's from like Arkansas, Oklahoma, one of those places right out there in the Midwest. The way he thinks, this generation can't identify with him. But someone like myself, Suleiman, we can identify. I can identify with him a lot because, like we mentioned earlier, like I grew up in Queensbridge. Who did I grow up in Queensbridge with? My grandmother. Mm-hmm. My grandmother's born in the early 1900s. Definitely. So the way I see women, that's why I'm not really myself personally. A lot of women from my age group and younger, that's in this part of the world, I don't think we're going to have a healthy relationship, because the way I see a woman should carry herself is the way my grandmother carried herself.
Okay. And
those are the type of women that I'm attracted to. You understand? And I think Kevin Samuels, the standard that he's or the yardstick that he's using to judge men and women, is more of that pre-women's lib, that's that the 60s or 1950s. He's looking at how those people used to carry themselves, even the way he dresses. Mm-hmm. Okay, he reminds me so much of my father. He's always in suits. Okay, he wears nice shoes. He has videos about which kind of cologne a man should wear. Those were things back in those days. In those days, that's men. They didn't dress like, when we started to dress. Because I said to myself, maybe about a year ago, I said, you know what? We were bums, because we were outside wearing sports apparel as casual clothes.
Yes, sir.
We're bums. I was actually wearing a basketball warm-up suit. And that's something I would go to a party and to a club wearing
jersey
or a suit
yeah.
or something like. Well, you wasn't wearing jerseys, but you wear, the top and bottom, which is a warm. It's really a warm up suit.
Okay.
Right, and you have your sneakers on, and you might have your gold chain and all that, and your hat. But back in those days, all the men wore suits. Or they might wear maybe slacks and a shirt. They all wore shoes, and they dressed nice, and that's how, they presented themselves. The women dressed a certain way, but things had changed. So he's addressing how how our culture has changed our image, and that image is a real negative image. Like you have it where you have people that's 60 and 70 years of age getting tattoos. That's a no-no.
A person could say, or maybe probably would argue, that in this time that we live now, you have to adjust to the culture.
Well, that's why the comment that you made was based on tradition.
Mm-hmm.
For males, your grandmother was the same thing with my grandmother, my mother, and my aunts. I used to love to see the way they dressed, their culture as women, especially in Harlem. And that's why we said we would want somebody that looked like them.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to looking at some of his podcasts. It tells you how 50% of the women think like they got to have a man with a picket white fence. They can be delusional. They can be in denial and entitled and selfish because that's their tradition they learn at home. Mm-hmm. That's what their parents got. Bring nobody in here with no messenger job. Bring no security guard in here. Better get somebody with some money. So it's tradition. That's what it is.
So,
but what is she doing? You know what I'm saying? You looking for this man who has a master's degree. He's making 6 figures, but you got like 5 children. The 5 children out of the 5, there's 3 different baby fathers. You know what I'm saying? You living in housing. The way you dress, the way you articulate yourself, you can't be with a man like that. Like even like my father, right? My father's very picky about if he goes out with a woman, she can't be a woman that shows her cleavage, and she has to dress a certain way when he's going out. You might be one female that me and you might spend some time over here, but when I'm around certain people, when I go out, you can't go out with me.
I am all for standards and raising the bar, because once the bar's risen, once the standards are made, then you can hold people accountable. I'm not choosing you because you don't meet the mark. It's nothing against you personally. It's just that what I'm looking for, or what she's looking for, what he's looking for, is someone to build a future with. And the person I see, or the person they may see to build a future with, has these qualities. And anytime you go outside your core preferences in a relationship, the relationship is bound to fail. So you don't put those preferences in the beginning, the relationship is not going to do well. So, we mentioned before, I'm about the message. I think his message is clear: do better, get better. Period. I think it doesn't get any more clearer than that. But I just want to touch on some phrases that you hear common in some of his post. Basic at best. But mind you, when I heard it at first, automatically I chuckled because no female wants to hear they're basic at best. Mm-hmm. But if you ask a woman to grade themselves from 1 to 10 and they can't use 7, you're not an 8 and you're not a 9 or a 10, then you are basic at best. So he lets them judge themselves. And then he applies reality. Reality is, if you're basic at best, why do you want the cream of the crop?
But for which generation? Because like basic at best for me and Suleiman, they're not even basic. I mean, Suleiman, your grandmother she had one man her whole life. All I know is my grandmother was married to Richard Carter. That's all we know. Mm-hmm. Even when he left, my grandmother, there was no boyfriends or anybody coming in the house. All three of her children had the same last name, and they had the same father. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I had another great grandmother who she was married, but she was married and she had children with that man, and she had a second marriage, and she had children with that man. But nowadays, basic, it's so low. It is so low. Like, these are women that we're talking about 40, 50 years ago, they would have a certain, label put on them in the community. Mm-hmm. And that's what he may be calling basic at best. But for like someone me and Suleiman, like you don't even have a chance.
Mm. That's why you have to your wife, your zawja, the girlfriend has to be a teacher. Like, and especially in the way of life we in. They're the nourisher, right? You don't just call them the housewife. When you're sick, they become the doctor. When you're hungry, they become the chef. When you got problems, they become the counselor, and so on and so on. Definitely. So if your woman is not praying at home, the kids are not going to pray. I don't care what you do. I don't care how many places you travel and how many places you go. They are the nourishers. Definitely. So when a child gets sick, he goes up under the mother. Mommy, I'm sick. The father will be like, all right, tough it out a little bit. Or even on the ball court, when he get hit, come on, that's just a scratch. But the mother alone, if she's doing all these things, and she's the teacher, and she's praying and making salat, and she's bringing in, it's not basic. She's what you want in your life.
Definitely.
So
men want submissive women. One of his statements. Do you agree to that?
Yes.
Men want what?
Submissive woman.
Yeah.
So what does submissive woman? What does that? What are those characteristics? How does that look?
I don't want to say submissive. I would like to say.
Don't back down now.
No, I would like to say. No, we don't like to say, because any man can control a woman's body. I would like to feed with her mind. And I don't want to say I would like to use her mind. I would like to feed with her mind. Mm-hmm. Any man can control a woman's body. Any man. But when you're dealing with the mind, and y'all have the conversation with the mind, because the body get older, but the conversation with the mind keeps the relation going. It keeps it pumping. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what the submissive, like, you mean bow and dance or move.
No. I think he's looking like a woman who smile a little bit and no back talk. I think that's probably what he's kind of like focusing on. Women who they aren't really aggressive. I think it's true and it's false.
I believe submissive is a woman who doesn't rebel against that which is correct.
So you're saying she cannot agree to disagree?
No, I'm saying that which is correct. Mm-hmm. She doesn't rebel against that which is correct.
I think it's true and it's false, because men, they come in different calibers and different ways of thinking. I think most men want happiness. So if they have to bend a little, maybe even a little beta to keep peace and harmony in the house, I think a lot of men don't have any problem with that. But then there are some alpha males, or males who consider themselves alpha males, and they're not going to budge. Those men need submissive women, because it's not about harmony. It's my way or the highway. Those men exist. I'm not saying that that's a behavior that's a praiseworthy, but they exist. And a lot of time when you have people who are the high earners, mentally they train themselves to be go-getters. So they don't want any back talk. They kind of want to live their life, not her life.
See. Me as a Muslim, I could be kind of biased towards that type of term because in Islam, both the man and the woman are supposed to be submissive. She's not being submissive to me, and I'm not being submissive to her. We're both being submissive to God.
Mm-hmm. And the truth.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Which is the truth.
The truth.
So that's how I look at it. So that's why I said, not rebelling against the truth. Because at the end of the day, I have my role as a man. Like, no matter how much you talk back to me, no matter whatever, I still got to pay the bills. It's not like, oh, I'm mad at you, I'm not paying the rent this week. Or I'm not going to buy groceries.
Right.
I got to do that regardless. If I don't want to be in a relationship with you, then now we have to go about doing things the proper way of me and you going our two separate ways in kindness. But other than that, I have my role. No matter how you behave, I have to meet the my duties that I have been commanded to fulfill. I have to fulfill those duties.
Which is the definition of a way of life.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Correct?
Yes.
Because if we throw what we are in there, it confuses the viewers. And not to hide anything. It's just that I love my woman because she gives me opportunity to be who I am. Like, I'm selling T-shirts. I'm going to sell some tickets. I'm going to hustle. But when they get in the way and they says, no, you make enough money and I make enough money, let's settle down and just, but even if I don't sell a T-shirt or a ticket, it's just my theological thought and vision and my plan on what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
Are you part of it? Now, if I'm sick and I'm old and I can't get around and do it no more, I like selling my horns and hats on New Year's. It's not because you're too old to do that. Just you're giving me opportunity to be who I am. And I want to give you opportunity to do what you do with a way of life. And that's what I look at. So
yeah, because I think the women, being submissive means that you have your duties as a woman, fulfill those duties, and that's what a man wants. And that's what a woman should want in a man as well.
But what happens when you lose your job and you out of work or you sick? Is that become her job?
No, that means you go out and get it. You go out.
You're sick, brother.
Are you sick?
You can't do anything.
Okay, so if she decides that she wants to go, help the family, and she goes out and helps the family.
Help the family.
He said if you're sick, so you can't do it.
Yes.
You can't do it.
So it's not. Is it an issue of does she decide or she has to step it up?
It depends. She might not want to be in a relationship anymore.
You got an F on there, right?
Okay.
Yeah, right. I like that.
Time to clock out, right? So, okay. With that being said, I'd like to thank the visitors for today, the guests, Imam Khalil, the brother Suleiman, my closest of friends, and I would like to remind everyone again to like, comment, and subscribe to the Confrontational Podcast, and stay tuned for further content.